I finished setting my husband's suit out on the bed, next to the small present containing the sterling silver necklace I planned to gift him when he got home from work. It's official. We were married 5 years ago, tonight. To celebrate, I'd made reservations at Bartolini's. As soon as my husband arrived home, we'd take off for a night of dancing and romancing. Only problem? He was late. Again. I'm Nelson, and my life has become drudgery lately. The spark that once existed between me and my husband is slowly fading. It felt like he didn't care about us anymore. We need it tonight, because times like these have become too far and too between. Ironically, my husband Arthur has never remembered our anniversary. My thoughts were interrupted by the trilling of an incoming text. It was from Arthur. I opened the text and quietly read, "Sorry, but I'll be later than planned. Boss sprung an emergency server upgrade on me, and the new server is not cooperating. I have to stay until it is installed, because it has to be ready for the 3 a.m. software updates, so everybody can work tomorrow." Arthur forgot our anniversary. Again. Just like always. My stomach sank, even though I suspected this was going to happen. Arthur is a network engineer, a busy one, and a good one. They run him ragged with all he has to do, but they at least appreciate all his hard work, because Arthur easily makes double what I make. I'm an online proofreader and editor for the independent publishing company, Leaf. It's not as important a job as Arthur's, but I love what I do. But it would be nice for my husband to appreciate me. A simple thank you would be nice. After all, because Arthur is working all the time, who keeps the apartment clean, who cooks, who does laundry, and who is also working a full-time job in addition to all of that. What I do is not as important as what he does. Note the sarcasm. A little part of me got angry. Who is the only person who tries to celebrate our love? Me. "What are you going to do for dinner?" I texted back. "Boss bought me a pizza to say thanks," he texted. "You?" The next move was a stupid move on my part, but I refused to spend another anniversary alone in our apartment. I should have reminded him earlier of what day today was. Then again, it was circled on our calendar on the fridge, and he had reminders on his phone, if he ever looked at them. Arthur's message was clear. His work was more important than me. Time to tell him how I really felt. I prepared another text, and the emotion burst out of me. "Don't you ever check your calendar? It's our damn anniversary. You've shown me how much you don't care. I'm not even a priority for one lousy night a year. I'm not a husband, but your servant. Yes, sir, I'll have your dinner ready for you when you get off work. Yes, sir, I'll do your laundry. Yes, sir, I'll be your personal Roomba and keep your apartment clean. Would it hurt you to remember Valentine's Day? Or somebody's birthday? Can't you say thank you once a year? Can't you put your work on hold so we can celebrate our marriage once a year? Why can't you actually pay attention to me once a year? Ask yourself, when was the last time we were even intimate? It's one of the ancient dates I circled on the calendar on the fridge." It took a moment before I hit send. His text response came fast. "This is my job. I have to upgrade the server tonight." I took a picture of Arthur's empty suit laying on the bed, and my wrapped anniversary present next to it. My next picture was a selfie of me looking styling in my suit, with the caption, "Happy anniversary. Since our relationship is only important to me, I guess I'm going to Bortoloni's alone. Enjoy your pizza." My phone rang. I knew I was being childish for not talking it out. I knew it shouldn't hurt this much, but it did. I wasn't in the mood to talk to my husband, so I hit ignore. Another text arrived. "Call me." I almost sent, "So you can show me how little you care," but I didn't. Instead, I sent, "Go enjoy your overtime, because I'm tired of putting our relationship on hold waiting for you. I'm going to celebrate our anniversary without you for the 3rd year in a row. Don't wait up." I had a little pride left and a little self-control. I put my phone on airplane mode for a little bit of the healing quiet I needed to get out of the apartment. It took a minute to arrange for an Uber, and 4 minutes later they picked me up in front of the apartment and whisked me away to Bortoloni's. Was drinking alone any better than binge-watching old TV shows? On the way, my driver's cell phone buzzed, and he quickly took a call. Whoever it was must have asked him how soon he'd be available. "About 10 minutes, my driver said, depending on traffic." They spoke a little bit more than ended the call. My driver half turned to me and added, "I must be doing a good job because someone requested me." "It must be nice," I muttered under my breath. I guess my driver heard me because he said, "Relationship trouble? An Uber driver is as good as a bartender at listening, and I like to think we give better advice." Let's switch to Arthur's point of view. Nelson's final text simply read, "Go enjoy your overtime, because I'm tired of putting our relationship on hold waiting for you. I'm going to celebrate our anniversary without you for the 3rd year in a row. Don't wait up." Today was our anniversary? Nelson had made reservations at Bortolini's fine Italian restaurant to celebrate? Why hadn't he said anything? Maybe he had, and I hadn't noticed. I checked my calendar and reminders. There it was, our anniversary. Somewhere in my list of notifications was a little buried note that said, "Your anniversary is today." I reread my husband's latest texts. What did he mean it was his 3rd anniversary spent alone? Had I forgotten the other ones? I'm sure I remembered them, hadn't I? What about holidays? Had I ever forgotten his birthday? Work is crazy busy. It's not my fault I forget things. The dread feeling in my stomach made me think otherwise. Still, the server wouldn't install itself. As soon as I finished reading the text, I carried the 2 packages and spare cables to the server room and opened all of them. Installing a server was a multi-part process, with installing the actual server being a small part of the process. Making sure it had the right software to sync with the rest of the network was the big part of the process. As I worked, I thought back to a year ago. I'm sure I had done something for our anniversary. If I hurried with the server installation, I could meet my husband at Bortolini's for a late dinner. I would still need to pick up flowers and chocolates. For him, cleaning and cooking and whatever are required, right? I made more money than him, so that was supposed to be his way of making up the difference. Didn't he think these things through? He should know I love him automatically. We're husbands, so it's a given. Why should I have to keep telling him that I love him, that I appreciate all that he does? Is Nelson that insecure? I'd spent an hour on the server already, and though the actual installation was done, the network adjustments would demand at least another hour more. It's not my fault the restaurant would be closed by the time I finished. Stretching out my back, I walked over to the pizza box and its slices of cold pizza. The note on the cover read, "Thanks for all you do." It reminded me of when Nelson used to say, "I love you" all the time, and he gave me little gifts. It didn't mean anything. It was just a game. I mean, he said it daily for the longest time. Except today. And yesterday. And the day before that. He told me daily he loved me when we first married, for the first few years of our marriage. But now he never said it anymore. He also had stopped leaving little surprises in my lunch, the last one being some weird plastic toy with a note that said he loved me. Happy Meals always came with a toy, he said. Whatever happened to that little toy? To those happy meals? Nelson stopped making me lunch soon after that, telling me to go out and buy it. About that same time, the upgraded network components had come into my work, which required a lot of overtime. On any usual night, I'd go home and grab whatever Nelson had cooked, and then fall into bed, exhausted. I never said thank you. He was supposed to make dinner for me. Then he stopped, complaining that how could he make dinner when I never came home the same time twice? It just wasn't worth the effort. I was too busy trying to be the breadwinning husband to notice that we had drifted apart. He sat home, alone, every night, while I worked overtime. We hadn't taken a vacation together in more than a year. I'm supposed to love Nelson, but I never make him a priority. His text said that he feels like nothing but a housekeeper, a servant. I finished upgrading the server, happy that something had gone right. Quickly, I raced over to the nearest corner store, bought some flowers, and sped to Bordolini's. They were closing, but Nelson had already left. Hours ago. Nelson and I could talk back at our apartment. I could give him the flowers, apologize, and somehow salvage something of our anniversary. Once back at the apartment, our dark and very quiet apartment, I set my gear on the kitchen table. It was just after 11. Wouldn't you know it, Nelson had made a little cake for our anniversary, but it had one slice cut out of it. His dirty dishes were in the sink. Next to the cake was a nicely wrapped package with a jeweler's label on it. I took a closer look at the label. Was this present from Howard's of New York? My anniversary present? Inside was a sterling silver chain necklace, a very nice necklace. And I only brought him flowers. My husband treated me like royalty, and I treated him like dirt. An empty wine bottle rested near the cake. The wine glass was also in the sink. A small, empty box of ice cream rested on the counter, the remnants of the ice cream drying on the counter. Nelson must have binge-ate ice cream and drank wine when he got back from Bordolini's. Odd. Nelson always cleaned up. A scribbled note on the table explained, "Your dinner is in the fridge. Your turn to clean the kitchen because your personal servant quits." Ouch. The note was meant as sarcasm, but it knocked something in my heart. A carton of take-out pasta, now chilled, waited for me. I left it for lunch tomorrow. It wasn't a lot of dishes, but even though I was tired, had worked overtime, wanted nothing more than to plop down in front of the television and veg out, there were bigger issues at play. I quickly neatened the kitchen. On a whim, I checked the calendar on the fridge. Not only did it include every appointment, but there it was in big, bold letters. Anniversary dinner at Bordolini's. There wouldn't have been any mystery about tonight, had I checked what was in front of my nose. I looked for the other big date. When was the last time Nelson and I were intimate? Nothing on the current month. So I looked at last month. Crap! Was it the date with the star on it? That's impossible. That meant we hadn't pankied the hanky for almost 6 weeks. What was wrong with me? He'd also written the time I came home every night, on every date. I was at least an hour late most nights, and many nights were several hours late. I knew my job demanded a lot from me, but had I really put in this much overtime? I had seriously destroyed our relationship. If Nelson and I were to stay married, things needed to change. I couldn't put off Nelson any longer. I didn't know what I was going to do when I saw him. Part of me expected him to be gone. I slowly walked to the bedroom we shared. Nelson lay in bed, facing away from me, blankets pulled up. I had the feeling he was only pretending to be asleep. Nelson's clothes lay scattered randomly across the bedroom. He was always neat, one of the things I loved about living with him, but tonight he'd stopped caring. What had he said earlier? Why couldn't I have paid attention to him at least one night a year? I had severely disappointed him for every anniversary and birthday and probably half of all the holidays. I had come home tired every night, never appreciating all Nelson did to keep our lives in balance. I expected him to take care of me, like a mom. He wasn't my parent. We were supposed to be partners. We were husbands. But had I treated him like one? Everything was supposed to be equal between us. It wasn't. I had taken my husband for granted, and in the process destroyed my marriage. He used to say he loved me. He used to say he was glad to be with me. He used to say I completed him. He hadn't said those things for months. How long before he left me? I undressed, leaving my clothes near his, and crawled beneath the sheets next to him, to hold him though he faced away from me. "Are you awake?" I softly asked, and slid forward to kiss the back of his neck. The slight straining in his shoulders told me he was awake. Had I only this one chance to make 3 years of stupidity right? It felt like it. I was about to say, "I'm sorry," or "I love you," or "Thank you for the necklace," or simply say that "I appreciate all you do," except a thought interrupted me. Just like my boss had done with me with his innocent little note on the pizza box saying he appreciated me. Did that same philosophy apply to other parts of my life? If my boss did it for his team, how much more important is it to tell the man I love that I love him? Maybe saying, "I love you," every day isn't a silly little game. My assuming Nelson knew that I loved him without me ever saying it had been a lazy assumption on my part. Maybe it's something that needs to be said out loud, daily. Maybe at stake is nothing short of survival of the relationship. Maybe telling him I love him is the only way we can survive. I kissed the space behind his neck again and whispered, "I love you." I kissed the space 2 inches below that and whispered, "I love you." I kissed the space 2 inches below that and whispered, "I need you." I kissed the space 2 inches below that and whispered, "I've never told you how much I appreciate you. I didn't realize I was taking you for granted. I treated you like crap. That's going to change, starting tonight." I leaned over and opened the nightstand drawer. The tube of lube patiently waited. "It's time for me to make you feel special," I whispered. For the next hour, I did everything to make my husband feel special and important and loved. I held him as we lay together, telling him over and over that I loved him, that I needed him, that every day that went by, I loved him more and more. I made it a goal to tell Nelson every day how much I loved him. A month later, we got off the plane in Mazatlan, Mexico, holding hands. We had flown here first class, and every day I did something to show how much I loved my husband, even little things like always doing the dishes together, every night. What are we doing in Mazatlan? I'm taking Nelson on our second honeymoon, so we can reconnect. It had taken a little bit of work, but we were happy again. The end. Thanks for joining me, everybody. If you'd like to hear more stories about gay men falling in love, please visit my channel. And as far as my health goes, they've diagnosed me with congestive heart failure. I have to make a lot of changes with things like my diet and how I handle everything. Anyway, I'm still going through the test. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm Gio, writer and reader of this piece, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.